Hey, what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it.
I was surprised that Brian Kelly talked with the media yesterday. I kind of forgot that was something he did in the first bye week as well. And, you know, there's not a ton there. There's not anything that is going to probably make you feel better about what happened in College Station. One of the things that I did take away was some of the things that he was mentioning in the run game, and we've all talked about it. And we've, wondered maybe what is going on. And I know I saw Scott Rabelais had it. Said we did not win some matchups. We made some mistakes. We made choices to run into boxes that weren't conducive to running well. So when you look at what they tried to get done to what they actually got done, like that is the troublesome thing. And the run game right now, I think it's a combination of everything. I think you could look at scheme. You could look at up front and the offensive line. You could throw some blame to the running backs if it's not all going well, because as we know, like to run the football, it's got to be a well-oiled machine. It has to be all the parts moving together. When you watch tape, there is a lot of, in the run game, it's not going to be all 11 necessarily, certainly inside the box, but it will be, 6 guys doing the right thing and the 7th guy's not doing his job. If you're LSU, though, you pass the ball so well that you would think it would open up more things in the run game, and it just has not happened. And there are some box issues, and what he's talking about is, as most of you already know, running into an 8-man box. Now, I do think that having the extra defender that's going to crash your zone read, because he is not worried at all that Garrett Nussmeier is going to pull the football, it does add more numbers into the box. And so it's got to be something that gets fixed. It's got to be something that you have got to find a way. And we go back 2 weeks, and I'll see if we can clip these plays up, or maybe we can just play them straight from the surface to kind of show you what we're talking about a little bit later on in the show. But you were running kind of this stretch zone. All right, so we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but when you're running like a stretch zone and you're struggling right now at the point of attack to block guys straight up, a stretch zone kind of gives you the ability to make things go east and west. They're not going north and south, okay? You're going east and west. And so what you're trying to do is, in the SEC, you're going to have defensive linemen that are really athletic, right? Let's get them moving a little bit. You get them moving, it changes the blocking angle for some of your offensive linemen. You've got an offensive line that's athletic. And then you've got running backs that can read the play. They decide when to go north-south. They put their foot in the ground, and it was successful against Arkansas. Now, sure, you do run the risk of maybe somebody shooting a gap and getting hit in the backfield, but I was surprised that LSU did not go to something similar to what they had against Arkansas. Arkansas's got a good defensive front as well. I mean, Landon Jackson's an All-American. Landon Jackson's going to play a long time in the NFL, because right now, for whatever reason, and Tate, you can jump in on this, you cannot block at the point of attack. Not long enough to be successful in the run game. Not long enough to just run inside zone. Now, last year you ran inside zone. It was who you were, but you have to remember, you had a unicorn at quarterback. And that unicorn at any time could pull that football. And so you couldn't be as aggressive against LSU in the run game. Now you can be as uber aggressive as you possibly want to be, because you're running inside zone and they're not taking the quarterback into the count at all. And so you're seeing aggressive style of play against LSU in the run game.
Jake, you would know this a lot better than me, but I always considered the short passing game an extension of the running game for a little bit. That's kind of my biggest concern, is you don't have a short passing game at all. I mean, I don't even care if Garrett Nussmeier pulls in and runs it. Why can't he pull it and dump it out into the flats to one of the athletic receivers, dump it out to Caden Durham? We've seen success in that in the past. the last couple of weeks, it just hasn't been there.
No, it's and kind of, we all know the play where it's basically, well, it used to be a triple option, more just two options now, where you either hand it to the running back, Jaden could pull it and cut inside of Mason Taylor, who was in the flats, or he could throw it to Mason Taylor in the flats. We have seen that. We just haven't seen it consistently, and we haven't seen it what feels like in a couple of weeks. And Sean D says it's way too late in the season to fix the run game. It is what it is. I disagree with that. And I understand the premise of what you're saying, but everything's available. You've run counter. You've run power. You've run stretch. You've run inside and outside zone. All that's in your playbook. You just have to find what is going to be right for you in that game, in that moment. There's not going to be, certain situations where you can run the stretch zone that I'm talking about. But there's not going to be situations where you can run just straight inside zone either. Like, it's going to be a game-by-game situation. And sure, you're never going to be the best rushing attack in the country at this point. I do agree with you there, but there's things that you can change up. And we were talking about this before the show yesterday, during the breaks yesterday, about, some of the screen game, smoke screens, nows, tunnels, bubbles, whatever it might be. And Taylor, if I'm not mistaken, Brian Kelly did hit that as well.
Yeah, he did. Look, he mentioned personnel issues a lot, whether it was, screen game, running game. He basically said, we don't have the offensive line to run these things. He said, I pride myself on the screen game, the running game. He's like, we just don't have it right now. But, to your point, yeah, you had Jaden Daniels, and I guess you can see this year how much he actually covered up the running game the last 2 years. Because this is the same offensive line you had a year ago, except for DJ Chester. But, by and large, it's the same group. But, Kelly yesterday did not inspire a lot of confidence in me or really anybody else who listened.
Yeah, when they asked him about the screen game, I think his quote was, "We're not built for it now, but we want to be." And I am curious, which part he would be referring to, because I don't think it's the receivers.
He said he doesn't feel comfortable with his offensive line out there in space. He's like, we have to get the O-line out there and run behind them, and he doesn't feel comfortable with them doing that.
I wonder if he doesn't feel comfortable because of how thin they are on the offensive line. I wonder if that plays into it as well, because as good as these first five guys are, you've got no depth as far as experience behind those five. And we saw it. We saw it play out in College Station, right? And that's troublesome. That is not good, right? And you've got some young guys that you hope can develop and you hope are going to find their way. And you got some, that have had some opportunities. But LSU, there's some things in the screen game. You look at Aaron Anderson. You look at Xavier Thomas. You look at the receivers that they have. They've got guys that feel like they would be great candidates to run those plays. And so, Tay, I don't know if you agree with this. I don't think it's a receiver issue at all. It feels like the offensive line and maybe the depth of that offensive line is the thing he's talking about.
Yeah, because I was texting you about this yesterday, and you were like, I think we have perfect receivers for this. Was he talking about running backs? Can't be that either. Caden Durham's made a lot of plays out of the backfield. We've seen Josh Williams be able to catch the ball out of the backfield as well. It has to be the offensive line depth, because you mentioned Xavier Thomas and Aaron Anderson, preseason, that's all they talked about was getting the ball in space.
Yeah.
Chris Hilton's fast enough to outrun anybody on the field. So, yeah, it kind of has to be O-line.
Sean D says, run game against Arkansas wasn't as amazing as people think. It was not, a 300-yard performance. But I don't think that's what we're saying. I don't think that's what we're talking about. You're not a running football team. Now, that part of it, that's okay. You could be a team that throws the football at a high level. Look, you had a quarterback that last week everybody's talking about potentially taking over everyone in the NFL draft. You've got really good receivers, okay? You have an offensive line that pass protects really well. They didn't run for 300 against Arkansas, but they ran it well enough. They made you worry about it enough. They made enough plays for it to be the balance that you're looking for. So that's the point. It's not that you're going to – look, this is not going to be, 2005 LSU or 4 or 6 or 7, whenever, like when we ran the football first. It's not what it is, and that's okay. Again, Arkansas, you weren't like, hey, man, did y'all see how, LSU ran all over Arkansas? No, but you were successful in the running game. Like, that's the thing. You were successful to what you needed to get done to be the offense that you wanted to be. That's all you have to do. We're not saying you lead the SEC in rushing, right? You just have to be successful enough on the ground where it doesn't become one-dimensional football. That's where you get in trouble. And it doesn't matter how good you are up front. And LSU's really good at protecting the quarterback. Before last game, they'd given up 2 sacks, best in the country. The offensive line before last game, they didn't have a sack to their credit. But if you become one-dimensional in the SEC, A&M, Alabama, hell, I'll even throw Vanderbilt, Florida, Oklahoma, all these teams left on your schedule. They have guys that are going to feast on that because they know they don't have to worry about everything. They just have to worry about one thing. And so, to the standard of what you need to get done, they did run the football well enough against Arkansas.
Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.